Ashok ji.
Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. The seven realities: existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following. First, the only real existence is that of the one and only God, who is the self in every finite self. Second, the only real love is a love for this infinity, God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. Third, the only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuance of this love, all things, body, mind, position, welfare, even life itself, are sacrificed. Fourth, the only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. Fifth, the only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so called bad, in saint and in so called sinner. This knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand, without expectation of reward, when compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, or try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. Sixth, the only real control is the discipline of the senses to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of character. Seventh, the only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst every kind of hardship, is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. Uh, so we stopped at the circles of life, right? So
Yes,
we've read up
yes,
to page
yes.
20. We've read up to page 20. So we can start on page 21. So we stop
Yes.
here. And okay, so before that, for those of you expecting discourses, our homework is still pending. Me and Kama need to collaborate and also do some planning. Obviously, also we did not make the announcement yet. So uh, excited by the interest to at least have the call. I got messages that we're having the call today, so I didn't want to curb that enthusiasm. So here we are, and I think it's also a good idea to finish as much as we can of Path of Love that we'll play in tomorrow. In fact, try to finish it. So we'll do Path of Love, which we were midway when we took the summer break. And quite honestly, I didn't like the break. I think we should never take a break.
Yes,
This is the
yes,
first
yes.
break we took, and I really missed my weekly Baba time. And I think I'm glad to be back again with all of you. Yeah. So again, we rotate reading. So one chapter at a time. So uh, who wants to go first? Anybody?
Yes, I will start.
Please, Mama. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai.
God and God man, the circles of the avatar. Absolute oneness prevails in reality. Space and time are but illusory. They are merely the effects of the reflection of God's infinitude. When man realizes reality, the reflection which has estranged him from reality vanishes, and he experiences the absoluteness of the absolute oneness of God. And when such a man continues to live his life in illusion, he leads the life of the man God or perfect master on earth. With his abiding experience of the absolute reality, he serves as the pivot point around which rotates the entire cosmic universe. Every point in the cosmos is equidistant from the perfect master who abides in illusion as the nucleus of the cosmos. Although the perfect master remains in illusion as the center of the cosmic periphery and radiates his influence uniformly over the entire universe, in his lifetime he gathers around him 12 men to directly have their center of interest in his individuality. These men, through their constant and close association with him in the past, right from the evolutionary stage of consciousness, reap the greatest benefit now when their past close associate has become a perfect master. Such a group of 12 men is called the circle of a perfect master. However, besides this group of 12 men, there is an appendage of 2 women to complete the circle of a perfect master in all its aspects. These 2 women also owe their position in regard to the circle to their past connection with the perfect master. One or more of these 14 close ones associated with the perfect master realizes the God state during or after the lifetime of the perfect master, and in some instances after one or a few more reincarnations. However, the perfect master fulfills his obligations by establishing his circle during his lifetime, and the greatest good he bestows is God realization with all its perfection to at least one from among his circle of 12 men. In the case of the avatar, it is different. He has 10 circles in all, as shown in the accompanying diagram. The first, or the inner circle of the avatar, consists of 12 men with an appendage of 2 women, and each of the following 9 outer circles consists of 12 persons, both men and women. In all, there are 120 persons in the 10 circles of the avatar, plus the 2 women of the inner circle who are but the appendages to that particular circle. 122 in all. Either one or more of the 108 members of the 9 outer circles realize the God state during or after the lifespan of the avatar, and some in the next incarnation or after a few more reincarnations. As in the case of the perfect master's circle, the inner circle of the avatar consists of only 12 men with an appendage of 2 men. The difference between the circle of the perfect master and the inner circle of the avatar is that the perfect master establishes his circle from amongst those who were closely connected with him right from the evolutionary stage of their consciousness. But the avatar who in his recurrent advents neither passes through the process of evolution, reincarnation, nor involution, does not therefore have the same links of association to establish. Can you write it? Oh, a new. Oh, okay. Therefore, have the same links of association to establish anew his inner circle with every advent. In short, whereas the perfect master establishes his circle, the avatar is directly allied with his inner circle, which is always the same in all his advents. With his descent on earth, The avatar, as it were, brings along with him the association of his inner circle. The connection of the inner circle in relation to the avatar may be compared to that of a man who directly associates himself with the 14 parts of his own body: two eyes, two ears, two nostrils, one mouth, two hands, two legs, and the trunk of the body itself, plus the external genitals and the anus that act as the. I have this bar at the bottom, which okay, uh, plus the external genitals and anus that act as the appendages to the body as a whole. As soon as man is born, he directly makes use of these 14 parts of his body, and these parts in turn respond to his dictates individually or collectively. Similarly, with the advent of the avatar on earth, his inner circle of the same 12 individualities and the appendage of the same two individualities directly begin to function individually and collectively according to the dictates of the avatar himself. With every advent of the avatar on earth, the 12 men of the inner circle and its appendage of two men gather round the personality of the avatar as the self-same 14 types of individualities. These 14 different individualities in the shape of different personalities always occupy their respective offices wherever the avatar manifests on earth. And during and after the lifespan of the avatar, they individually and collectively function in the same way as their predecessors, who had held and functioned in the same offices of the inner circle during the past advents of the avatar. Therefore, it would not be wrong to say that with Christ coming again, come Peter, Judas, and all his apostles. But this can never mean that the very same Peter or the self same Judas in reincarnates again and again. These can never reincarnate, as all of the 12 individual personalities of the avatar's inner circle attain God realization in every avataric period, either during or soon after the lifespan of the avatar. Once God realization is attained, reincarnation is impossible. The only exception to this rule is the avatar himself, who comes again and again to redeem humanity. It
Can I
is
pause
not
you
the
here?
same.
Can I pause to
Yes,
ask a
yes,
question?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So let's just read this again. My question is around Peter, Judas, and everybody, right? So they don't come back, but it's how can we understand this line? But this can never mean that the very same Peter or the self same Judas reincarnates again and again. These can never reincarnate as all of the 12 individual personalities of the avatar with us in a circle attain God realization in every avataric period, either during or soon after the lifespan of the avatar. So when they come back, it's in the type and nature of Peter and type and nature of Judas, and the role is more important. That's what the way to understand it.
Yes, yes. I also was confused with this statement, but what we can gather here is the drop souls which are accompanying the avatar that advent actually get realization
Correct.
either at the same birth or immediately after the avatar's work is done. But when the avatar comes down next time, the same individuality of the souls or functionality of the souls are brought
Functionality. I
down
think that's
by
a
the
better word.
other drop souls, I think.
I like functionality. That's better. More than individuality, functionality of those roles, of those
Yes, yes.
individuals. So like he says, parts of the body. So the
Yes.
function of the eye is represented by Peter, function of the hands is represented by somebody, and then that is reincarnated, not Peter, the drop role, like you rightly said.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Jay Baba. I think Karthik, you can compare it in the corporate world to an organization chart where the roles and responsibilities, or maybe the the functions or functionalities, as you
Function.
functions
Correct.
are defined, but the person may be different, or the soul may be different, because the 12 or the 14 people who are there, they get God realization, so they do not reincarnate, but you have the slots or the functions defined, and some other soul may come in there. Is that what
Exactly.
I
So
is what,
exactly. So that's another good analogy. We need a CFO, we need a CTO, we need a chief digital officer, and the CEO gets all of them, but it's not the same team every time. So
but the
when the
CEO,
new CEO comes, he gets his new team, but he surely needs a CTO, surely needs a
yeah, but then
CFO.
there is a what do you call, a chairman emeritus in Baba,
Yes, also. Yes,
sort
yes.
of, I'm taking an analogy.
Okay.
And the most important aspect is Avatar is the same soul
Only exception
coming
is Avatar.
coming back uh, repeatedly.
Correct. Only exception. Yes.
And
That's where we
other
stopped in.
important the thought which came to me was this highlights the importance of all the say symmetries or whatever they are organized on the side of Avatar Baba, where we go to Mehrabad to visit.
Uh-huh. Correct.
So they are all the God realized souls which were together, and same functionalities will be done by other souls every time. So that is the greatness of those places that we'll have to realize that when we visit.
Upper Mehrabad and Lower Mehrabad.
Ah,
No, no, no.
yeah,
All right.
Baba.
So you can start from it is not the same.
Okay. It is not the same individualized personalities of the inner circle that reincarnate. It is the individualities of their particular officers that come with every advent of the avatar, as Ashok interpreted. It is because in all the avatars' advents, each of the 12 men and 2 women of the inner circle hold exactly the same office and function in exactly the same manner. That is said, that is said, the avatar always brings with him the same circle. As soon as the veil with which the avatar descends on earth is rent by the then living perfect master or masters, and the avatar realizes his avatarhood, the 12 men and 2 women automatically group around the personality of the avatar to occupy their respective positions in the inner circle and to function as usual according to the dictates of the avatar of the age. The position of the avatar in regard to the inner circle and its function may be compared to a man asleep. As soon as the man is made to wake up through some external agency, and no sooner he is awake than he spontaneously finds that all the 14 parts of his body, as mentioned before, are already there in their individual roles, ready to function at the slightest wish of the man. Similarly, as soon as the avatar is made to realize his avatarhood through one or two or more of the 5 perfect masters of the time, he also realizes that the 14 personalities in their characteristic roles of the inner circle are ready at hand to discharge their duties. Uh, to explain in detail why only these 14 particular personalities hold such positions in every advent of the avatar would take a volume of explanations. Who can become the 14 members and how do they become attached to the inner circle of the avatar? These questions would require more volumes of explanation. Suffice it to say that each of these 14 particular personalities, when occupying the office and function of the inner circle, not only must resemble the characteristic individualities of his or her predecessor in the previous advents of the avatar, but must be exactly similar in all respects. For example, one of the offices of the inner circle of Jesus Christ was held by Peter. And the second advent of Christ, this particular office must be held by another Peter who may be named A, but having the same quality of mind and heart and other characteristics as of the Peter. The same applies to the office held by Judas, John, James, etc. of the inner circle in the time of Christ. All 14 members of the Avatar's inner circle realized God by the grace of Avatar during the same avataric period, which is 100 years duration after the manifestation of the Avatar on Earth.
Jai Baba,
Regarding the
Jai Baba Mamaji, I just have one question. Now, you see, they're saying that the avatar awakes from his sleep. Can this be compared to the, the beyond state when he comes or I don't know, I'm getting a little, this is a question I have in my mind. So can we compare it to the advent or his beyond state and then the next stage and then coming on down on earth? Could somebody clarify, or if directly missing Kama now?
I think,
Can we,
yeah, go ahead, Mama.
no, Ashok, are you referring to the initial urge which leads to the
Yes,
all
yes.
the different
I'm
aspects,
referring to
evolution? But
yeah,
that
yeah.
is
No, I'm referring to all the stages. Of course, this is not the initial urge, but there are 2, 3 stages, right? Uh, One second. It's there in the God Speaks. I'm just trying to correlate this with what we read in God Speaks. It's just might be my whim also, but anyway.
no. What I feel is the avatar comes back in the same evolutionary or reincarnation stages. What he has already gone through. So that means this cycle which is happening right now, after the whim and going on like this, till pralaya as such, avatar is repeatedly coming in the same cycle. So it is not emergence of a new cycle.
Agreed. I'm just saying that is it that he's coming back again that state 2C, or is it that he goes back into 2A and then comes back to C? That's my question. If you go into that chart A of the God
Yes,
Speaks,
yes,
I know I'm making it a little complicated, but this question came to my mind. I said I'll ask, and maybe others can think about it well.
yes. I think
I
Kama
think
would
it
have
is 2C. I think it is 2C. The avatar does come back, and it is only from 2C, right? Because at the time of the whim, there is only the beyond state of that. So
Correct.
even between the Mahapralaya, is only 2C and back.
Okay. So the 2A or 2B is not getting triggered.
Yes,
no.
it's not.
I
Correct.
feel it is
Basically, the whim
2A.
was only once. The original
Is
whim was only
is my
once.
understanding.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, is my
yeah. It is not done every 700 years. Yeah,
every
yeah,
700 or every Mahaprayai.
yeah, yeah.
The original win. That's why maybe that is
That,
why the word
that is state,
MOW.
that is the state one, I think. Okay. Then we have that is God in beyond state. Then we have God in beyond state 2A.
Correct.
Then we have
Correct.
2C. So, so you are saying from 2C only it comes back again and again, and it doesn't go back to
Avatar comes back again and again. Yes.
Avatar comes back again and again. Sorry, I mean,
Correct. Correct.
thank you, Jay Baba.
Mama, you were saying something. You can say it and then continue.
I have a difficulty in understanding this. Say at the end of the avataric period and the dropping of the body of the current avatar, where did the soul go back? Can it be to A?
You see, so it comes from EAIC, Eternal Avataric Infinite Consciousness, and
Yes.
goes back there only. And that's
Goes
my
back
understanding.
there only and
There,
then
that is descends from
and
there again,
descends,
700 years.
yes, descends, not going through the cycle of, say, the evolution and other things,
Yes, yes.
directly as C. Because all
Is
the
it
all
as
the
C?
masters
Yeah,
are
yeah,
in
yes.
the, yes, all the masters are in the stage of C.
Correct.
So the avatar is the head of the group with special characteristics. So avatar comes back from C, jumping from A to C without going through the process of evolution, reincarnation, and all that. Possibly that can be one explanation.
Yeah,
So,
correct. You're absolutely right. Both what we are saying and you're saying, I think is the same. Yeah,
Okay.
Ashok, go ahead.
I just want to sorry. I just want to say that when we see Avatar coming down as a human being, he's in Sakar. So there's this 2B which is Nirakar. I know I might have confused you all, but this
2B
question,
or 2A is Nirakar.
yes, 2B, from 2B to 2C, there is a transformation of thoughts.
Yes, you can take it like that, possibly. So when the avatar ends the innings and then drops the cross body, he goes into the Nirakar stage. And from the Nirakar stage, he doesn't go through the cycle of, say, again, but he comes back as state C.
Sakar.
Yes.
Sakar with special characteristics even beyond the masters, Sadgurus.
Yeah, that's true. So from
Yes.
Nirakar to Saguna Sarkar.
Ah,
Very simple way of understanding. I'm not. I hope
okay.
I confused everybody.
Correct.
Yes,
Agreed.
yes.
Agreed. Good question.
Okay.
So I just opened page 30 of Beams. First
Okay.
master who got fused with the eternal avataric infinite consciousness is the master of all masters. So he
Master.
comes from the eternal avataric infinite consciousness, which according to me is to see. And my assumption is at the end of at the dropping of the body and to the time apart from the avataric period of 100 years after that, and the 600 years completely till the next advent, 600 or 1300 as the case may be. I think it is one C that uh, the avatar is in.
Karthik, can you
Sorry.
read the these two paragraphs? I think it might be relevant. If you can, please.
Sure. Let's do that.
No. Yes, the one you marked in green. What is that?
Yeah. So, no, but this is very specific. Let me just read it. The first master who got fused with the eternal infinite consciousness is the master of all masters. Yet, if and when the avatar takes an incarnation in the human form, he brings upon himself a veil, and this veil has to be removed by some master or masters. The veil with which the avatar descends in the human form is placed upon him by the five perfect masters who bring him down from his formless being. From his formless being, Nirakar being, in the avataric periods, the five masters always put this veil upon the infinite consciousness of the avatar, because if he were to be brought without such a veil into the world of forms, the existing balance between reality and illusion would be profoundly disturbed. However, when the five masters think that the moment is ripe, means the advent is overdue, they remove this veil which they have placed on the avataric consciousness. Again, the words avataric consciousness is repeated, which is EAIC, which I think is 1C. From that moment, the avatar consciously starts his role as the avatar. The incarnation of the avatar does not take place unless it is precipitated by the five masters, five perfect masters of the cycle. In all of his incarnations, except the first, even the avatar needs a master. I think let's just see if the previous one is relevant. It's not. Okay, yeah, let's get back.
Thank you.
Welcome. Regarding is where we start.
Yes. Regarding the outer circles of the avatar, none of the 108 persons in the 9 circles hold any office similar to that held by those of the inner circle. And all of these 108 persons attain God realizations by the grace of the avatar, but not necessarily during the avataric period. These 108 persons of the outer circles have their respective places in the 9 circles in accordance with their past connections with the members of the circle ahead of them. For example, the members of the second circle of 12 persons next to the inner circle are grouped around the avatar in accordance with their past connections with the members of the inner circle. Similarly, the 12 persons of the third circle next to the second circle are grouped around the avatar in accordance with their past connections with the members of the second circle, and so on, with all the remaining 7 circles. Okay, here one thought comes to me. We are associated with what square or cube circles. You got the idea what I said?
No.
No. There are 108 people. Maybe there are 1 million people below them, each connected with the other. So we must be connected with some of these people.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
how,
There's no doubt about it. Yes. In probably n layers of geometry.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So that ends that chapter. By the way, I think this might be word for word similar to what is already there in discourses. I'm not sure, but
Yes, I
we
just
can have.
it is page 293 of discourses.
Exactly.
And I also wanted to say, Karthik, that like an ocean, we are all drops in the ocean, yet connected to the ocean. Is what you were saying, or what Mamaji was saying earlier? Is it the same analogy can apply there, or
Same analogy applies. Only thing is the connection with Baba. How did we get and how we progress is like this. So we may be connected with some million already connected group. So from that we need to keep going on to reach the 108 position.
108. That's even if you reach 7,000.
Good enough. No, I am very simple, boss. I am MOM. But obviously, I mean, we've all selected the wombs that we have selected. based on those connections with the specific teleological purpose of making an advancement in our spiritual journey. Right? There's no doubt about it. We may not understand or comprehend it today, but the choice of whom and the choice of what we are doing and what we are facing is also made by that purpose of making an advancement or progress towards God realization. Right? Jai Baba. Let's get closer and closer. For me, as I said, MOM is good enough. I'll take it with both hands, gleefully. So,
What is the exemption of MOM?
MOM is minimum ordinary mukti.
Okay.
So one of the states is ordinary mukti. It is the lowest. So I just want MOM. That's it. Everything else is bonus. So that's why minimum. Yeah, I heard Sunil saying something a couple of times, and I thought he
I said I've
over
heard
voice.
Kama say that many times. MOM.
Yeah. That's
In
my
this
term.
lifetime.
That's
He
my
keeps
term. He
saying in
borrowed
this
it.
lifetime.
Yeah, that's the key, right? So you can get any status much later and all that, but in this lifetime, my request to Baba and hope and aspiration is mom.
No, only corrigendum that I can add here is that if you are aspiring for MOM, you don't have any other further abouts. So that's why I pitch my goal beyond that. Maybe I will get MOM.
Yes. So that's why I carefully worded it. Maybe there's more. I said minimum, but if there is more, I'm gleeful. I'll accept that as well. Okay, next reader, action and inaction chapter. Who wants to jump in? If there's no volunteer, I will. Ashok, you want to read?
Which book is this?
Sorry.
This is Path of Love. Sunil, did I hear you'll read? Please go ahead.
No. Sorry, I was just asking which book it is.
Okay.
I'm
It's Path of
expecting
Love.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Ashok, you want to go ahead, and I'll read.
Yeah, thereafter the next person can also read.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Action and inaction. 1. In the beyond state of God, there is unconscious inaction. 2. In the state of God realization, there is conscious inaction. This is not the state of perfection, but of liberation, nazat. In this state, there is absolute tranquility which gives rise to infinite power, knowledge, and bliss. 3. In the intermediate state between 1 and 2, there is conscious action. Actions promote sanskaras, impressions. Sanskaras in turn breed more actions and create bindings. In this state, there is bondage. 4. In the state of a mazhub of a seventh plane, there is unconscious action. 5th, in the state of perfect masters, there is conscious, active inaction. Perfect masters are free of sanskaras. They have no impression. As such, there cannot be room for actions of their own. Their life is one of inaction, but made active because of the prevailing environmental circumstances. Actions of the perfect masters are prompted by the environment atmosphere prevailing then. Examples. First, the beyond state of God may be compared with a child asleep in a cradle. It is an example of unconscious inaction. Second, the state of God realized person not a perfect master, may be compared to the child wide awake but still in the cradle. This is an example of conscious inaction. Third, the state in between 1 and 2 may be compared to the child awake and out of the cradle. It is an example of conscious action. Fourth, the state of a mazub of a seventh plane may be compared with a somnambulist. The somnambulist walks about or performs of action in sleep and is not aware of what he does in this state. Similarly, the mazub of the seventh plane does action and is not conscious of them. He is unconscious action. He eats, drinks, speaks, but all this is unconscious action. Fifth, the state of a perfect master may be compared with a child awake, but inside the cradle that is continuously rocked by mankind. It is a conscious, active inaction. Inaction is being inside the cradle, and active inaction is the rocking of the cradle by others. God is conscious inaction indeed, and the tranquility of this conscious inaction is so very profound that it gives God the attributes of infinite power, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss. The highest of the high, Dehradun, 7th September 1953.
That's the next
Next
message.
one.
That's the next
Next.
Oh,
message.
sorry.
Yeah, that's the next.
Yeah.
That's the next message.
Yeah, that's the next
So
message.
before we go there, let's just. So this is not matching. Can you just check with discourses, the physical copy, to see if it's matching? I don't think this matches exactly word for word. This is slightly different, is my feeling. I may be wrong.
But this is also an explanation of the chart 8, which I was referring to earlier. Some parts.
Correct, correct.
The 2A, 2B, C, all that.
Yeah. Can you check on this, please? Meanwhile, I'll open up our
Yeah,
chart.
I'll just check the discourse. One second.
Yeah. So actually, I love this chapter, right? This concept of action and inaction is something that's so important in our daily life that this is the best prescription Baba has given, actually. So let's just go back and look at what we did. So classification of action and inaction. Less spiritual is unintelligent action, that is without application of mind. Unintelligent inaction, which is tamas, basically watching something and not reacting, though you're able to comprehend what is happening and you're not involving yourself. Obviously, the spiritually positive or spiritually neutral is ASSGR, spontaneous action from the state of God realization.
No, you can go from bottom to top.
Action that is spontaneous.
Intelligent inaction.
Yeah, okay. Inaction. So you assess something and consciously do not react. Then intelligent action is where you are able to assess it and then do the right thing, which does not add sanskaras. And finally, spontaneous action from the state of God realization. This is only from perfect master's grace, right? That's only their level. And then we have this continuum. So as you rightly said, on the top is what happens with spontaneous action. It's neither action nor inaction, right? And then intelligent action, this is the best form of action as it helps you progress because you're able to perform karma, perform acts, live in the life and not add sanskaras. It's very tough, but that's the goal. Response to past sanskaras and hence dissolve sanskaras, and we must add, doesn't create new ones, right? In 2, you don't. 3, intelligent inaction. being a pure observer witness, that is just be a Shakshi and not react to anything. So this is between stages of 2 and 3. So this is very gifted, evolved behavior, like from a master, right? Then 4, rituals, even prayers can degenerate to unintelligent action. Oh, yeah, this is a good example. So in discourses, this is covered, right? So if you do ritual, you're actually doing action, but you're doing it without understanding that it is a ritual. So it doesn't cause too much harm, but it doesn't cause too much good as well. Finally, unintelligent inaction stems from fear of life or from tamas, that is inertia or lethargy, right? So every waking moment, if you are able to classify between 2 and 5, because I'm assuming there's very little chance or very little examples of 1 in our day-to-day life, at least in mine, we will be able to move away from 5 and move closer to 2 and 2 and 3, I would say. And I think we would be better off than where we are and get towards MOM.
And as
Right.
you brought out the tamasic or tamas at the end, so the third and fourth are likely to be rajasic. One is rajasic spiritual, that is 3. Rajasic
Yes.
non-spiritual is unintelligent action. And the
Correct.
second
Correct.
intelligent action is the sattvic area.
Sattvic. Perfect. In fact, let's make all those notes, right? So I'll save this here as a version.
Jay Baba, Karthik, I also wanted to add.
Yeah.
See, the rituals and ceremonies, Baba has said that if it's done mechanically, then that is that is equivalent to karma kanda. It adds to your sanskaras.
Yes,
It
yes.
it, it doesn't. It's basically karma kanda. It's unintelligent, or maybe, you know, it's not desirable action.
Correct. Yes. So any other reactions before we go back to the next chapter, the highest of the high message?
After this, we will repeat that for 5 stages as we were reading now.
Makes sense. You mean in the book, right? You mean in
Yes,
Path
yes.
of Love?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that. Makes sense. Okay, this is on the Teams folder. So, do you want to read again just the 1 to 5 so that we re-summarize this?
Oh, okay, I will. Yes.
Thank you.
Jay Baba, action and inaction. First, in the beyond state of God, there is unconscious inaction. Second, in the state of God realization, there is conscious inaction. This is not the state of perfection, but of liberation, nazat. In this state, there is absolute tranquility, which gives rise to infinite power, knowledge, and bliss. Third,
So
in the
can this be the moksha state?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. This is, I think, as we are seeing, we should also bring in elements of what we read here. Please continue, Ashok. But we need a addition to the slide because the perspective that is presented here is not in the slide. So if you see, the fact that unconscious inaction is beyond is not covered. We are not taking care of that, right? And state of God realization, rightly assessed as moksha, is the second one, which is conscious inaction. Again, that's not covered in that aspect. So we need another slide, which probably I'll do later, which
Yes,
brings out this perspective of understanding action and inaction.
yes, yes.
But
Three, please.
Karthik, the number 2 which we just read uh, is
Yeah,
state 2B.
God realization.
No, state,
Conscious inaction. No.
no. Above this, above this.
In
Infinite
fact,
power, infinite.
yeah.
Wait, infinite power, knowledge and bliss.
Its only problem is with power. That's all. Knowledge and bliss is
Correct.
part of the moksha.
See, the first one is state 1 in the 10 states of God. Am I right
That
in?
is beyond. Okay.
Yeah, the beyond state. And the number 2 which we read is this conscious inaction is basically state 2B.
Yes, yes.
Correct.
I'm just trying to correlate. That's about all.
Yes, yes.
Sure. Okay. So
Go
we
on.
can continue from point 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Third, in the intermediate state between 1 and 2, there is conscious action. Actions promote sanskaras. Sanskaras in turn breed more actions and create bindings. In this stage, there is bondage.
Yes.
Fourth, in the state of a mazub of a seventh plane, there is unconscious action.
Yes. So the third point is the whole of evolution, reincarnation, all that process. So conscious actions promote sanskaras, impressions. Sanskaras in turn breed more actions and create binding. So that is the whole of evolution and reincarnation. Whereas involution is unbinding or the unwinding.
Correct.
Yes, okay.
Actually, as we are reading, I'm actually tempted to say something which is, I think, the right way to interpret this. This has nothing to do with the slides because does not bring the perspective of intelligence. This brings the perspective of only consciousness. Whether action is conscious or unconscious. So basically, there are four variables: consciousness, unconsciousness, action, inaction. There is no role for intelligence here. Whereas in the slides and in discourses, there it is intelligent action and unintelligent action. So I got confused and took you guys there. So I take that back. Let's read this again. The only four variables are conscious, unconscious, action, inaction. And he's mapping that on the states of God, including the states of Madzub, right? So I hope I'm correct.
That is correct. Those who are studying this, when they apply in their life, there the intelligent or unintelligent action will start.
Correct.
Yes.
That's next level. But this is only conscious, whether you are doing it consciously or unconsciously. That's it.
Yes.
Right? And so that's why he's not getting into details like whether it creates new sanskaras and so on. He just says actions promote sanskaras.
Yes.
He's not saying intelligent action does not create sanskaras, right? So he just says in 3, if you read, it says in the intermediate state there is conscious action. Actions promote sanskaras, impressions. Sanskaras in turn breed more actions and create value. So my apologies. And with this renewed contextual understanding, can we start from the first with just the four variables in our head: action, inaction, conscious, unconscious. Sorry.
Can we start?
I'll
Can
go
we
back.
start
Yeah.
off first again, because just to
Yeah.
have
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so the basic, if you do a matrix, as you said, four
Hmm.
variables: conscious, unconscious. If you put it
Correct.
on, and action,
Left
inaction,
hand. Perfect.
yeah, left and top, that might
Correct.
give a grid where we can understand this, as you rightly said, and get
You'll
the
make the slide. And aren't
uh,
you putting a prism?
sorry.
You can make the slide, I said.
No, I'm yeah. I just writing it on paper as you were
Yeah,
speaking.
sure. Sure.
Anyway, action in an inaction. In the beyond state of God, there is unconscious inaction.
So in mathematical symbology, you can write it as minus minus. Okay.
Correct. Correct. Perfect. So if you're taking the matrix, it's minus minus, left bottom.
Okay, left bottom. Yes,
Left.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Then we have number two. Second, in the state of God realization, there is conscious inaction.
That is plus and
Right
minus.
bottom. Correct.
That is minus plus.
Plus and minus.
Plus
Conscious
and minus.
inaction.
Okay, plus
First is
and
consciousness. Yeah. First
Yes,
is
yes.
consciousness.
Mamaji, perhaps you can do this. I am getting a little
Okay.
confused.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Read.
Maybe simultaneous reading and thinking. Anyway, it's okay. It's
Mhm.
good.
Yes.
This is a good exercise. Uh, I'll just read second again. Second, in the state of God realization, there is conscious inaction. This is this is not a state of perfection, but of liberation. I think liberation.
Liberation.
Najat.
Liberation. Nazar. In this state, there is absolute tranquility, which gives rise to infinite power, knowledge, and bliss. Third, in the intermediate state between 1 and 2, there is conscious action. Actions promote sanskaras, impressions. Sanskaras in turn breed more actions and create bindings. In this state, there is bondage. Fourth,
If you go to that symbology, actually, it is plus plus. So in all other states, it is always nearer zero. Whereas here, it is adding on plus plus. So that is sanskaras and bondage. Keep adding and then tightening you. Okay.
Correct. Good one.
correct. So that is x-axis and y-axis.
Yes.
Fourth, in the state of mazub of a seventh plane, there is unconscious action.
This is minus plus.
Yes, minus plus. In the state of perfect master, there is conscious, active inaction.
Yes. So it is plus and minus, but with a say in bracket we'll have to add plus and then write minus.
This is
You
beyond the
need a
grid, I think.
three-dimensional graph. Yeah, you need a three-dimensional graph.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
can't be plotted. So you
This
can
can't be
only
Yes.
plotted.
plot four.
This
This
is
can't be
beyond.
plotted.
This is the beyond
Yes.
beyond.
Yes.
No, this is not the beyond. Technically, you can have a
Not
third.
beyond.
Yeah,
It
you
is
can have a
conscious.
third. Yeah, you can have a third. What do you call dimension? So you have x, y, and then you can have z.
Okay,
Right? You
okay.
can have the z dimension, but then
So
let's not
maybe
complicate. Yeah,
maybe
I think
require
let's.
cube in that case.
Yeah, that's what three-dimensional cube.
At three dimension. Okay.
But
It's
then,
okay.
the cube will have what? So it should have active or inactive. But then that's too close to action and inaction, right? So what's the dimension of that? That dimension cannot represent active. So I would say that let's not get too lost in the symbology.
Yes, yes.
and focus on just understanding it from the aspect of whether it is active or in, I mean, whether it is conscious or in unconscious, and leave it at that. And I think now, if you read the examples, it will make it very, very obvious.
Yeah, you want me to read the examples?
Sure. Before that, perfect masters. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect masters are free of sanskaras. They have no impressions. As such, there cannot be room for actions of their own. Their life is one of inaction, but made active because of the prevailing environmental circumstances. Actions of the perfect masters are prompted by the environment, atmosphere prevailing then. I think this last line is very relevant, that there, there are different circumstances and different in the different advents of the avatar
Correct. And perfect master.
and perfect master. Yeah,
In
yeah.
this case, it's also perfect masters. Yeah. So the
Prompted by the
perfect masters act
environment.
in a way where they're actually not acting. Yeah, they're actually not acting, but they're prompted by the universal work and the context which they live in, and
I,
they automatically perform those actions without it just happens. Yoga sanskaras are doing the stuff.
yeah, absolutely, you hit the right word. Context is important. I'll go with examples now.
Yeah, please.
The beyond state of God may be compared with a child fast asleep in a cradle. It is an example of unconscious inaction. The state of God realized person, not a perfect master, can be compared with a child of wide awake but still in the cradle. This is an example of conscious inaction. The state between 1 and 2 may be compared with a child awake and out of the cradle. It is an example of conscious action. And the state of a mazub of a seventh plane may be compared.
You have to take it up. Move the
Karthik,
page.
yeah, can take the page up, please. With a somnambulist, a somnambulist walks about or performs other action in sleep and is not aware of what he does in this state. Similarly, the mazub of the seventh plane does actions and is not conscious of them. His is unconscious action. He eats, drinks, speaks, but all this is unconscious action. My question here is this the must the stage or
Yes, yes.
correct?
Mazub and Mazub's, whereas Mus may not be totally realized souls, they are on the path higher, say 4 plus 5 or 6 like that, whereas actually Majub is beyond that.
He's in seventh plane.
Yeah.
But here they're referring to the mazub of the seventh plane. Yeah, yeah, that's quite a advanced stage. Okay.
Yes.
The state of a fifth, the state of a perfect masters may be compared with a child awake, but inside a cradle that is continuously rocked by mankind. It is a conscious, active inaction. Inaction is being inside the cradle, and active in action is the rocking of the cradle by others.
Yes.
I'll
So the
continue.
perfect master does not indulge in action, but the world around him, context, like you said, is ensuring the action which is visible to the others. So in his terms, it's inaction. In the world's terms, it is action. It's active, right? So again, I think we should just remember these examples for a better absorption and as a reference when we get a doubt on this, right? I think these are good examples. Yeah, the last para.
God is conscious in action indeed, And the tranquility of this conscious inaction is so very profound that it gives God the attributes of infinite power, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. So let's go to the next message if we are okay.
Yes.
Avtar Meher Baba Ki Jai. It's the highest of the high message, delivered in Dehradun, India, 7 September 1953. On the morning of the 7th of September, it being the anniversary of Zoroaster's birth, Meher Baba gave the following message. Consciously or unconsciously, directly or indirectly, each and every creature, each and every human being, in one form or the other, strives to assert individuality. But when eventually man consciously experiences that he is infinite, eternal, and indivisible, then he is fully conscious of his individuality as God, and as such experiences infinite knowledge, infinite power, and infinite bliss. Thus, man becomes God and is recognized as a perfect master, Sadguru, or Kutub. To worship this man is to worship God. When God manifests on earth in the form of man and reveals his divinity to mankind, he is recognized as the avatar, the Messiah, the prophet. Thus, God becomes man. And so, infinite God, age after age, throughout all cycles, wills, through his infinite mercy, to effect his presence amidst mankind by stooping down to human level in the human form. But his physical presence amidst mankind not being apprehended, he is looked upon as an ordinary man of the world. When he asserts, however, his divinity on earth by proclaiming himself the avatar of the age, he is worshipped by some who accept him as God and glorified by a few who know him as God on earth. But it invariably falls to the lot of the rest of humanity to condemn him while he is physically in their midst. Thus, it is that God, as man, proclaiming himself as the avatar, suffers himself to be persecuted and tortured, to be humiliated and condemned by humanity, for whose sake his infinite love has made him stoop so low, in order that humanity, by its very act of condemning God's manifestation in the form of avatar, should, however, indirectly assert the existence of God in his infinite eternal state. The avatar is always one and the same, because God is always one and the same, the eternal, indivisible, infinite one, who manifests himself in the form of man as the avatar, as the Messiah, as the prophet, as the ancient one, the highest of the high. This eternally one and the same avatar repeats his manifestation from time to time in different cycles, adopting different human forms and different names in different places to reveal truth in different garbs and different languages in order to raise humanity from the pit of ignorance and help free it from the bondage of delusions. Of the most recognized and much worshipped manifestations of God as avatar, that of Zoroaster is the earliest, having been before Rama, Jesus, and Muhammad. Thousands of years ago, he gave to the world the essence of truth in the form of three fundamental precepts: good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. These precepts were and are constantly unfolded to humanity in one form or another, directly or indirectly, in every cycle by the avatar of the age as he leads humanity imperceptibly towards the truth. To put these precepts of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds into practice is not as easily done as it would appear, though it is not impossible. But to live up to these precepts honestly and literally is as apparently impossible as it is to practice a living death in the midst of life. In the world, there are countless sadhus, mahatmas, mahapurushas, saints, yogis, and valis, though the number of genuine ones is very, very limited. The few genuine ones are, according to their spiritual status, in a category of their own, which is neither on a level with the ordinary human being nor on a level with the state of the highest of the high. I am neither a Mahatma nor a Mahapurush, neither a sadhu nor a saint, neither a yogi nor a vali. Those who approach me with the desire to gain wealth or to retain their possessions, those who seek through me relief from distress and suffering, those who ask my help to fulfill and satisfy mundane desires, to them I once again declare that as I am not a sadhu, a saint, or a Mahatma, Mahapurush, or a yogi, to seek these things through me is but to court utter disappointment, though only apparently, for eventually this disappointment is itself invariably instrumental in bringing about the complete transformation of mundane wants and desires. The sadhus, saints, yogis, valis, and such others who are on the via media can and do perform miracles and satisfy the transient material needs of individuals who approach them for help and relief. The question therefore arises that if I am not a sadhu, not a saint, not a yogi, not a Mahapurush, nor a Vali, then what am I? The natural assumption would be that I am either just an ordinary human being or I am the highest of the high. But one thing I say definitely, and that is I can never be included amongst those having the intermediary status of the real sadhus, saints, yogis, and such others. Now, if I am just an ordinary man, my capabilities and powers are limited. I'm no better or different from an ordinary human being. If people take me as such, then they should not expect any supernatural help from me in the form of miracles or spiritual approach me to fulfill their desires would also be absolutely futile. On the other hand, if I am beyond the level of an ordinary human being, beyond the level of saints and yogis, then I must be the highest of the high. In which case, to judge me with your human intellect and limited mind and to approach me with mundane desires would not only be the height of folly, but sheer ignorance as well, because no amount of intellectual gymnastics could ever understand my ways or judge my infinite state. If I am the highest of the high, my will is law, my wish governs the law, and in my love, and my love sustains the universe. Whatever your apparent calamities and transient sufferings they are, but I'll read again. Whatever your apparent calamities and transient sufferings, they are but the outcome of my love for the ultimate good. Therefore, to approach me for deliverance from your predicaments, to expect me to satisfy your worldly desires, would be asking me to do the impossible, to undo what I have already ordained. If you truly and in all faith accept your Baba as the highest of the high, it behooves you to lay down your life at his feet rather than to crave the fulfillment of your desires. Not your one life, but your millions of lives would be but a small sacrifice to place at the feet of one such as Baba, who is the highest of the high. For Baba's unbounded love is the only sure and unfailing guide to lead you safely through the innumerable blind alleys of your transient life. They cannot obligate me, who, surrendering their all, body, mind, possessions, which perforce they must discard one day, surrender with a motive, surrender because they understand that to gain everlasting treasure of bliss, they must relinquish ephemeral possessions. This desire for greater gain is still clinging behind their surrender, and as such, the surrender cannot be complete. Know you all that if I am the highest of the high, my role demands that I strip you of all your possessions and wants, consume all your desires, and made you desire less rather than satisfy your desires. Sadhus, saints, yogis, and valis can give you what you want, but I take away your wants and free you from attachments and liberate you from the bondage of ignorance. I am the one to take, not the one to give, what you want or as you want. Mere intellectuals can never understand me through their intellect. If I am the highest of the high, it becomes impossible for the intellect to gauge me, nor is it possible for my ways to be fathomed by the limited human mind. I am not to be attained by those who, loving me, stand reverentially by in rapt admiration. I am not for those who ridicule me and point at me with contempt. To have a crowd of tens of millions flocking around me is not what I am for. I am for the selected few who, scattered amongst the crowd, silently and unostentatiously surrender their all, body, mind, and possessions to me. And still more for those who, after surrendering their all, never give another thought to their surrender. They are all mine who are prepared to renounce even the very thought of their renunciation, and who, keeping constant vigil in the midst of intense activity, await their turn to lay down their life for the cause of truth at a glance or sign from me. Those who have indomitable courage to face willingly and cheerfully the worst calamities, who have unshakable faith in me, eager to fulfill my slightest wish at the cost of their happiness and comfort, they indeed truly love me. From my point of view, far more blessed is the atheist who confidently discharges his worldly responsibilities, them as his honorable duty, than the man who presumes he is a devout believer in God. He shirks responsibilities apportioned to him through divine law and runs after sadhus, saints, and yogis. He relieves from the suffering which ultimately would have pronounced his eternal. To have one eye glued on the enchanting pleasures of the flesh, and with the other expect to see a spark of eternal bliss, is not only impossible, but the height of hypocrisy. What I want to know. It is for me to awaken you from time to time throughout the ages, sowing the seed in your limited minds, which must be proper heed and care on your part. May flourish and the fruit of life. If led by your ignorance, you persist in going your own way, none can stop you in your choice of progress. For that too is progress, which, however slow and painful, eventually and after innumerable incarnations, is bound to make you realize that which I want you to know now. To save yourself from further entanglement in the maze of delusion and self created suffering, which owes its magnitude to the extent of your ignorance of the true goal, awake now, pay heed, and strive for freedom by experiencing ignorance in its true perspective. Be honest with yourself and God. One may fool the world and one's neighbors, but one can never escape from the knowledge of the omniscient. Such is the divine law. I declare to all of you who approach me, and to those of you who desire to approach me, accepting me as the highest of the high, that you must never come with me with the desire in your heart which craves for wealth and worldly gain, but only with the fervent longing to give your all, body, mind, and possessions, with all their attachments. Seek me not in order to extricate you from, I think, Mamaji, you have to mute. Seek me not in order to extricate you from your predicaments, but find me in order to surrender yourself wholeheartedly to my will. Cling to me, not for worldly happiness and short lived comforts, but adhere to me through thick and thin, sacrificing your own happiness and comforts at my feet. Let my happiness be your cheer and my comforts your rest. Do not ask me to bless you with a good job, but desire to serve me more diligently and honestly without expectation of reward. Never beg of me to save your life or the lives of your dear ones, but beg of me to accept you and permit you to lay down your lives for me. Never expect me to cure you of your bodily afflictions, but beseech me to cure you of your ignorance. Never stretch out your hands to receive anything from me, but hold them high in praise of me, whom you have approached as the highest of the high. If I am the highest of the high, nothing is then impossible to me. And though I do not perform miracles to satisfy individual needs, the satisfaction of it would result in entangling the individual more and more into the net of ephemeral existence. Yet, time and again, at certain periods, I manifest the infinite power in the form of miracles, but only for the spiritual upliftment and benefit of humanity and all creatures. However, miraculous experiences have often been experienced by individuals who love me and have unswerving faith in me, and these have been attributed to my nazar or grace on them. But I want all to know that it does not befit my lovers to attribute such individual miraculous experiences to my state of the highest of the high. If I am the highest of the high, I am above these illusory plays of Maya in the course of divine law. Therefore, whatever miraculous experiences are experienced by my lovers who recognize me as such, or by those who love unknowingly through other channels, they are but the outcome of their own firm faith in me and small miracles. Such experiences derived and do not end good individuals who experience them into further and greater bindings of illusion. If I am the highest of the high, then ability is sufficient to give in an instant God realization to one and all, and thus free every creature in creation from the shackles of ignorance. But blessed is knowledge that is gained through the experience of ignorance in accordance with the divine law. This knowledge is made possible for you to attain in the midst of ignorance by the guidance of the perfect masters and surrenderance to the highest of the high. Okay,
So, Karthik,
very,
just
very
one,
powerful message.
yeah, very powerful, and one immediate thought I wanted to share
Brilliant.
is that there is a two different worlds of duality and reality. So, while staying in the world of duality, and we should not seek any material, uh, material uh, blessings or material things, which is from the avatar. Very, very clear here said in this,
Absolutely.
because there are two different worlds, and we are like when the world of uh, uh, being merged in the ocean or getting God realization is much larger than the material gains. Jai Baba.
Absolutely. 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 I think we have to frequently keep reading this message. We understand Baba's context in the world. Our journeys, to say the least. Okay, so we're almost out of time. So we will to Hari Paramatma. You can chant on mute, but we'll have Sanjay ji's audio play out. Anything else before we wrap up?
I think this
I will
message
try
Yeah,
to
I
get
think,
a
yeah. I just wanted to add on this message. I think this message, sets the altar of Meher Baba very high. Because if this message is given to the humanity, most of the people are not even ready to, go to him.
yes,
He has set himself exclusive,
yes, yes,
and we should be very lucky
yes,
that we
yes,
are there to accept him as what he is saying. That I'm not here to give you anything, but we are still in his fold. I will not say we are in love with him. We are still trying. That's
yes,
We are kind of so privileged in that sense, actually, that he has given us that motivation. Then, spite of his saying that don't come to me for any worldly pleasures or worldly things. Uh, so
mm,
this is something we need to, meditate on and think ourselves to be so lucky. In that sense, yeah, or special if not lucky. We don't know our lucks, but there is something, that we are in this love.
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't let that
beautiful.
transmute into
Yeah,
ego,
yes, yes,
spiritual ego.
yeah, 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 yeah. In that humility, I am saying,
So,
yeah,
you
we,
know,
we we should not be
in
worried
humility,
about
I mean,
things,
it deserves.
Yeah, yeah, it deserves thought. We should not take it so lightly,
It surely deserves it.
Yeah, yeah.
Surely,
It
It's
deserves a
surely,
serious.
thought.
It's
certainly,
serious. Yeah, it's serious matter actually.
it's serious matter that we have a
Yeah.
chance to at
Hmm.
least the path or the chance to hold on to his daman and
Yes,
just
yes.
and just
There is,
just his daman. That's all.
yeah, I mean, as Baba lovers, most of us, like, it's all His will. All these words we have learned and we just talk about it, Oh, what Baba wants to happen and all that.
Casually.
There's a beautiful bhajan which I picked up from my
Yes.
father's diary recently, who talks of this, Baba ke jan tum chalo ab संभल के प्रियतम की मर्जी तमाशा नहीं है. No, it's not such loose talk, that oh Baba will see. Baba. Okay, not that we should not be talking like this, but when we say this, it has a very serious implication. Actually, there is a lot of things behind this.
Absolutely.
I'll sing it some other day. It's a beautiful song actually. Baba ke
Sure.
jan tum chalo ab संभल के. Yeah. Okay. So we
so
do that.
to
Yeah.
yes,
1 minute.
to summarize this
Yes.
whole the message what Baba has given here is servitude and surrender. If we can Be prepared for that. Then you are with Baba. Otherwise, you are not with Baba.
Correct.
Correct.
It's a very serious matter and puts a lot of responsibility on us actually.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, Baba.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Carry
Baba.
the flag. Carry the flag in the right way. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Mamaji, you reminded me of the etchings mastery in servitude. Of course.
That's why he stresses so much on that.
Yes.
So he doesn't say, I will give you in return something. He says, you will get realization. So on your effort, you will get your realization. But I am there to help you out, but not for this worldly, mundane things like riches,
Yeah.
comforts, and other things.
Yeah, Baba has categorized lovers in three parts. No? The lovers who want things from God, and there are others who says whatever I have should remain preserved.
Hmm.
I should not lose what I have. And the third ones are who do not need anything, and these are very rare people actually.
Hmm.
Jai Baba. Yeah. Okay. So
Baba.
if there is
Jai
nothing
Baba.
else, we can sing that chant. Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai.
Baba ki jai.
Hari Paramatma Allahur Mast God Yazdahu 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 Hari Paramatma Allahur Mast God Yazdahu. God Meher Baba ki jai.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai.